Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something a little different. The story of the very first human consciousness awakening 7 million years ago, when survival wasn't about quarterly reports, but literally not becoming dinner. So before we begin this prehistoric journey, go ahead and hit that like button if you're ready for some ancient chaos, and subscribe if you enjoy these deep dives into humanity's most ridiculous moments. Drop a comment letting me know what time it is, where you are. It's wild knowing people are listening to stories about our earliest ancestors while scattered across the modern world. Now get comfortable, maybe grab a snack that doesn't require hunting with sharpened rocks, and let's travel back to when being human meant figuring out everything from scratch. Tonight, we're experiencing life as the first Homo sapiens, where every day was basically an extreme survival reality show with no prize money and really high stakes. So there you are, consciousness flickering to life like a dying ember suddenly catching flame, and the first thing you realize is that you're naked, hungry, and absolutely convinced that someone has played the cruelest cosmic joke imaginable. Because congratulations, you've just been reincarnated as the very first Homo sapiens, roughly 7 million years ago, and let me tell you, the welcome package is nothing like the brochures promised. Your previous life's memories are fading like smoke, but somehow you retain this nagging awareness that things used to be different. Better. Much better. You had opposable thumbs before, sure, but you also had Netflix, central heating, and the revolutionary concept of toilet paper. Now you're crouched in what can generously be called Africa, though the continent hasn't gotten around to naming itself yet. And your biggest accomplishment of the day will be not getting eaten by something with more teeth than you have brain cells. The landscape stretches before you like God's rough draft, all sweeping savannas dotted with acacia trees that look like green umbrellas someone forgot to close. The grass waves in patterns that would be beautiful if you weren't busy trying to figure out which end of a stick makes the better weapon. There are no roads, no buildings, no convenient signs pointing toward the nearest Starbucks. Just endless wilderness that seems to whisper, "Good luck, buddy. You're going to need it." Your body feels alien and familiar all at once. You're bipedal, which is frankly revolutionary for this time period, but your brain capacity hovers somewhere between remarkably clever chimpanzee and village idiot. Your hands can grasp things with surprising dexterity. Your eyes can spot movement across vast distances, and your sense of smell could put a bloodhound to shame. Unfortunately, none of these adaptations come with an instruction manual, and evolution apparently decided that figuring things out through trial and error builds character. The first priority is water, because even in your previous life, you knew that humans are basically just ambulatory sponges who occasionally have opinions about things. You follow your nose toward what might be moisture, stumbling through tall grass that parts before you like nature's own red carpet. Except this carpet is full of things that want to bite, sting, or otherwise express their displeasure at your existence. You find a stream eventually, more by accident than design, and the water tastes like liquid earth mixed with the hopes and dreams of fish. It's terrible. You drink it anyway, because the alternative is becoming a very early addition to the fossil record. And you're not quite ready to give evolution the satisfaction. The reflection staring back at you from the water is disconcerting. Your face is a study in angles and shadows, with a pronounced brow ridge that makes you look perpetually concerned about something just out of frame. Your hair is a wild mane that would make a lion jealous. And your skin is already browning under the relentless African sun. You look like someone who spends their days thinking deep thoughts about where to find the next meal, which, as it turns out, is exactly what you'll be doing for the foreseeable future. Speaking of meals, your stomach chooses this moment to announce its presence with a growl that echoes across the savannah like a territorial declaration. You're hungry, and not the kind of hungry that can be solved with a quick trip to the kitchen. This is primal, gnawing hunger that makes your hands shake and your vision sharpen to laser focus on anything that might be edible. The good news is that nature is a generous provider, assuming you know what you're looking for and don't mind the occasional bout of food poisoning. The bad news is that your knowledge of edible plants extends roughly to green things might be okay, and if it smells like death, probably avoid it. This is going to be a learning experience, and you suspect the tuition will be paid in stomach cramps and regret. You start with what looks like berries, small purple orbs hanging from a thorny bush like nature's own Russian roulette. They taste sweet with an undertone of, "Please don't kill me," which seems like a good sign. You eat a handful and wait to see if your digestive system stages a revolt. When nothing immediately catastrophic happens, you consider this a victory and make a mental note to remember this bush for future reference. But fruits and berries aren't going to sustain you long term. You need protein, and in this era, protein comes with legs, wings, or a really bad attitude. Your hunting skills are roughly equivalent to those of an enthusiastic but uncoordinated house cat, which is to say, you have the desire but lack the follow-through. You fashion your first tool by accident, picking up a sharp rock to dig at some stubborn roots and realizing that this pointy thing makes other tasks easier too. It's not exactly rocket science, but then again, rockets won't be invented for another several million years. So you're ahead of schedule in the innovation department. This rock becomes your constant companion, your prehistoric Swiss Army knife, useful for digging, cutting, and providing moral support during difficult moments. The days blend together in a rhythm that would be monotonous if survival wasn't such an engaging full-time occupation. You wake with the sun because darkness in this era isn't just the absence of light. It's an active invitation for things with night vision and poor impulse control to come investigate your delicious, smelling bipedal form. You spend the morning hours foraging, learning through painful trial and error which plants are friendly and which ones think your digestive tract would make an excellent battleground. You discover that certain roots, when dug up and cleaned, provide substantial nutrition, though they taste like dirt mixed with disappointment. Grubs and insects turn out to be protein-rich delicacies, assuming you can get past the psychological hurdle of eating something that looks like it should be paying rent in a rotting log. The first time you crunch down on a fat beetle, every instinct screams in horror, but your stomach votes in favor of calories over squeamishness. Water becomes an obsession, not just because you need it to survive, but because finding reliable sources shapes your daily wanderings. You learn to read the landscape like a primitive GPS, noting which types of vegetation signal moisture below ground, how animal tracks converge toward watering holes, and the way certain birds circle areas where streams might be hiding beneath rocks and fallen trees. Your shelter situation starts as an ongoing negotiation between comfort and safety. Caves seem like obvious choices until you realize that caves in this era often come with existing tenants who don't appreciate surprise roommates. Your first attempt at cave dwelling ends abruptly when you encounter something with glowing eyes and a growl that suggests it has strong opinions about property rights. You retreat with dignity intact, but confidence significantly dented. Instead, you become a master of improvised shelters, learning to weave grass and branches into structures that provide some protection from wind and rain, while remaining easy to abandon when larger predators decide to audit your living arrangements. These aren't architectural marvels. They're more like nature's version of emergency tents, functional but not particularly stylish. The weather becomes a constant negotiation partner. Rain means fresh water and cooler temperatures, but it also means everything becomes muddy, slippery, and generally uncooperative. You learn to read cloud formations like an ancient meteorologist, though your predictions are roughly as accurate as throwing rocks at the sky and seeing which way they fall. Dry seasons bring their own challenges. Water sources disappear, forcing longer journeys to find hydration. The grass browns and becomes brittle, providing less cover but making it easier to spot both prey and predators from greater distances. You develop a nomadic lifestyle, following water and seasonal food sources across landscapes that stretch beyond your ability to comprehend their scope. Fire becomes your holy grail, though achieving it proves more challenging than every survival show ever made it appear. Your first successful flame comes after countless attempts, sparked by striking rocks together until your hands are raw and your patience is exhausted. The moment that first ember catches and grows into actual fire, you feel like you've just unlocked the cheat codes for existence. Fire changes everything. It provides warmth during cold nights when the temperature drops and your improvised shelters feel about as protective as wishful thinking. It keeps nocturnal predators at bay, their eyes reflecting the flames but their bodies maintaining respectful distances. Most importantly, fire lets you cook meat, transforming potentially dangerous raw protein into meals that won't turn your digestive system into a war zone. Your first cooked meal is a revelation. A small rodent you manage to catch, roasted over flames until the meat pulls away from tiny bones, tastes like civilization itself. The smoky flavor, the tender texture, the knowledge that you've conquered one of nature's fundamental forces. It's enough to make you weep with joy, though you're too dehydrated for actual tears. But maintaining fire proves almost as challenging as creating it. You become obsessed with fuel, constantly gathering dry wood, grass, and anything else that might burn cleanly. Rain becomes your nemesis, threatening to extinguish the flames that represent the difference between survival and becoming something else's dinner. You learn to build shelters around your fires, protecting them like precious treasures, because in many ways they are. Tool making evolves from desperate necessity to something approaching artistry. Your initial sharp rock graduates to a collection of implements, each designed for specific tasks. Cutting tools for preparing food, digging sticks for unearthing roots and grubs, scrapers for cleaning hides from the occasional successful hunt. Each tool represents hours of patient work, chipping and shaping stone until it performs the desired function. Your hands become maps of this learning process, calloused and scarred from countless interactions with unforgiving materials. Every cut teaches a lesson about pressure and angle. Every broken tool provides insight into stone quality and technique. You develop an intuitive understanding of how rocks fracture, which materials hold edges longest, and how to balance sharpness with durability. Hunting remains your greatest challenge and occasional triumph. Your early attempts are exercises in optimism over ability, resulting in exhaustion, frustration, and prey animals who probably laugh about the weird, bipedal creature stumbling through their territory. But persistence and desperation make for excellent teachers, and gradually you develop strategies that occasionally produce results. You learn that patience trumps speed, that observation reveals patterns, and that wounded pride heals faster than empty stomachs. Small game becomes your specialty, rodents, birds, anything too slow or stupid to escape your increasingly cunning traps and ambush tactics. Each successful hunt feels like winning the lottery, providing not just food but valuable materials like hide, bone, and sinew. Larger game remains mostly theoretical, though you occasionally scavenge from kills made by more efficient predators. This involves a delicate dance of timing and courage, waiting until the primary hunters have eaten their fill, while hoping they don't decide that you'd make an acceptable dessert. The meat is often partially spoiled, but beggars can't be choosers, and you're definitely in the beggar category. Your social life consists entirely of conversations with yourself, which would be concerning if there were anyone around to be concerned. You develop running commentaries on daily activities, partly to maintain some connection to language, and partly because the sound of your own voice provides comfort in an endlessly quiet world. You create elaborate backstories for the animals you encounter, giving them names and personalities to fill the void left by human companionship. The hawk that circles your territory becomes Harold, a stern but fair observer of your survival attempts. The family of meerkats near your favorite watering hole transforms into a comedy troupe, whose antics provide entertainment during the longer, lonelier afternoons. Sometimes you wonder if there are others like you somewhere out there, other early humans stumbling through their own daily survival challenges. The thought is both comforting and terrifying. Comforting, because companionship might make everything easier. Terrifying, because competition for resources could make everything harder. For now, you're content to be alone with your thoughts, your tools, and your gradually improving odds of seeing another sunrise. The changing seasons teach you about cycles and patience. You learn to read the subtle signals that indicate transitions, the angle of sunlight, the behavior of animals, the way certain plants respond to temperature and rainfall changes. This knowledge becomes crucial for planning ahead, storing food during abundance, and preparing shelters before harsh weather arrives. You develop a mental calendar based on natural events rather than numbered days. The time when certain flowers bloom, the period when specific animals migrate, the season when particular fruits ripen. These become your temporal landmarks, helping you navigate the cyclical nature of survival in an environment that operates on rhythms far older than human consciousness. Food storage becomes an ongoing experiment in prehistoric preservation techniques. You learn to smoke meat over low fires, creating jerky that lasts for days rather than hours. Certain fruits can be dried in the sun, concentrating their flavors and extending their usefulness. Roots and tubers can be buried in cool, dry locations, creating primitive root cellars that provide insurance against leaner times. But storage also attracts unwanted attention from other creatures who appreciate the convenience of pre-gathered food. Your early storage attempts become feeding stations for everything from insects to large carnivores, teaching you hard lessons about location, protection, and the eternal vigilance required to maintain any advantage in the survival game. You develop increasingly sophisticated techniques for hiding your stockpiles, using natural camouflage, multiple smaller caches rather than single large ones, and locations that are convenient for you but unappealing to potential thieves. This strategic thinking represents a significant evolution in your cognitive abilities, requiring you to plan ahead, consider multiple variables, and adapt your strategies based on changing circumstances. Your body adapts to this lifestyle with remarkable efficiency. Muscles develop in response to constant physical demands, your endurance improves dramatically, and your senses sharpen to levels that would seem superhuman to your previous incarnation. You can detect water from remarkable distances, identify edible plants by scent alone, and hear the approach of predators long before they become visible threats. But physical adaptation comes with costs. Your hands become permanently stained and roughened by constant tool use and exposure to the elements. Your feet develop thick calluses that allow you to traverse rough terrain without injury, but also make you look like you've been walking on sandpaper for months. Your skin weathers and toughens, providing better protection, but losing the soft familiarity you once took for granted. Sleep becomes both essential and terrifying. Your body demands rest after days filled with constant physical and mental challenges. But sleep also makes you vulnerable to predators who operate on different schedules than yours. You develop the ability to sleep lightly, maintaining enough awareness to detect potential threats while still allowing your body to recover from daily exertions. Your sleeping locations become carefully chosen fortifications, spots that provide some protection from weather and predators while remaining easy to escape if circumstances require rapid evacuation. You never sleep in the same location twice in a row, partly for safety and partly because moving around helps you map larger territories and identify new resources. Dreams become your only connection to the world you left behind, though those memories fade like watercolors in rain. Sometimes you wake with vague recollections of electric lights, running water, and food that came prepared in convenient packages. These dreams feel like visits to another universe, one where survival wasn't a constant negotiation, but simply an assumed baseline. The isolation begins to affect you in subtle ways. You find yourself talking to inanimate objects, having lengthy conversations with your tools about their performance and potential improvements. Rocks become confidants, trees become advisors, and your fire becomes a friend whose moods and needs you understand better than you ever understood most humans in your previous life. You develop rituals and routines that provide structure to days that could otherwise blend into meaningless repetition. Morning inspections of your territory, afternoon tool maintenance sessions, evening planning discussions with yourself about the next day's priorities. These routines become psychological anchors, providing stability in an environment where everything else remains constantly uncertain. Your understanding of the natural world deepens through daily observation and interaction. You learn to predict weather patterns days in advance, recognize the subtle signs that indicate seasonal transitions, and identify the complex relationships between different species in your ecosystem. This knowledge represents a kind of education that no classroom could provide, earned through direct experience and often painful trial and error. You begin to recognize patterns in animal behavior that reveal their own survival strategies. The way certain birds circle areas where large predators have made kills. How small mammals create complex burrow systems that provide both shelter and escape routes. The seasonal migrations that follow food and water sources across vast distances. These observations inform your own survival decisions and help you understand your place in the broader ecosystem. The concept of territory becomes increasingly important as you establish regular routes between water sources, food gathering areas, and shelter locations. You begin to recognize signs of other large predators, territories, and learn to navigate around them, understanding that encroachment could lead to confrontations you're unlikely to survive. Your own territorial markers develop organically. Places where you've left tools, cached food, or built temporary shelters. These locations become waypoints in your mental map, reference points that help you navigate and plan movements across increasingly familiar landscapes. Tool innovation continues as you encounter new challenges and opportunities. You discover that certain combinations of materials create more effective implements. That bone and stone can be joined to create tools with properties neither material possesses alone. Binding materials like sinew and plant fibers allow for increasingly complex constructions that expand your capabilities significantly. Your first composite tool, a sharp stone bound to a wooden handle with carefully prepared sinew, represents a quantum leap in your technological capabilities. This simple axe multiplies your ability to cut wood, process food, and defend yourself, demonstrating how innovation builds upon previous discoveries to create exponential improvements in survival odds. You begin experimenting with preservation techniques beyond simple drying and smoking. Certain plant materials can be used to wrap and protect stored food, while specific types of clay help create containers that keep water cool and protected from contamination. These experiments sometimes fail spectacularly, but each failure teaches valuable lessons about materials, techniques, and environmental factors. The weather becomes both enemy and ally, depending on circumstances and preparation. Rain provides essential water, but can also wash away food caches, extinguish fires, and create muddy conditions that make travel dangerous. Wind helps dry preserved foods, but can also spread fires beyond control and make hunting significantly more challenging. You learn to work with weather patterns rather than fighting them, timing activities to take advantage of favorable conditions while taking shelter during storms. This requires a kind of patience that your previous life never demanded, the ability to wait for optimal conditions rather than forcing activities according to arbitrary schedules. Your relationship with fire evolves from desperate need to sophisticated partnership. You learn to create different types of fires for different purposes. Small, hot fires for cooking, larger fires for warmth and protection, slow, burning fires for smoking meat and processing materials. Each fire requires different fuel, produces different results, and demands different maintenance techniques. Fire making tools become some of your most prized possessions, carefully maintained and protected like precious heirlooms. Your fire starting kit includes multiple types of tinder, various striking stones, and backup materials that ensure you can create flame even under adverse conditions. Losing the ability to make fire would essentially constitute a death sentence. So redundancy becomes essential. You develop increasingly sophisticated understanding of nutrition, learning to combine different food sources to maintain health and energy levels. Certain plant materials provide essential nutrients that meat lacks, while various types of protein offer different benefits for energy, healing, and overall physical maintenance. Seasonal variations in diet become part of your survival strategy, taking advantage of temporary abundance to build energy reserves for leaner periods. Spring brings fresh plants and increased animal activity. Summer offers fruits and extended daylight for extended foraging. Autumn provides nuts and seeds that store well, while winter demands careful resource management and strategic patience. Your water consumption patterns adapt to availability and activity levels. During periods of abundance, you drink as much as your body can process, building hydration reserves for times when water sources become scarce or difficult to access. You learn to ration intake during shortages while maintaining enough hydration to prevent dangerous dehydration. Water purification becomes increasingly sophisticated as you learn to identify contamination sources and develop techniques for improving water quality. Boiling over fire eliminates many dangerous organisms, while filtering through sand and charcoal removes visible impurities and improves taste. These techniques require additional time and fuel but significantly reduce the risk of waterborne illness. The concept of property takes on new meaning when everything you own must be either carried, cached, or abandoned. Your possessions reduce to essential tools, emergency supplies, and materials for creating temporary necessities. This enforced minimalism teaches valuable lessons about the difference between wants and needs. Though you'd gladly trade philosophical insights for a reliable source of cheeseburgers. Your clothing situation remains an ongoing challenge, as the climate demands some protection from sun, wind, and temperature variations while your manufacturing capabilities remain primitive. Animal hides provide the best material when you can obtain them, but processing them into usable garments requires time, tools, and techniques that you're still learning through trial and error. You discover that certain plant fibers can be woven into basic textiles, though the process is time-consuming and the results are far from fashion-forward. These early clothing experiments look like they were designed by someone who learned about fashion by having it described by a particularly unhelpful committee, but they provide essential protection and represent significant technological achievement. Your hair becomes both asset and liability, providing some protection from sun and insects while also requiring occasional maintenance to prevent tangles that could become dangerous in emergency situations. You develop grooming techniques using available materials, though the results would never pass inspection in polite society. Personal hygiene presents ongoing challenges in an environment where soap, toothbrushes, and deodorant exist only in increasingly distant memories. You learn to use available materials for cleaning, sand for scrubbing, certain plant materials for dental care, and water for general washing when it can be spared from drinking requirements. Your feet become particularly important, as they're your primary transportation system across terrain that ranges from smooth grasslands to rocky hills to muddy stream crossings. Foot care becomes a daily priority, checking for injuries, removing thorns and debris, and protecting against the constant wear that comes with being your primary means of mobility. You develop techniques for treating minor injuries using available natural materials. Certain plants have antiseptic properties. Others help stop bleeding or reduce inflammation. Clay can be used to protect wounds while they heal, and various animal materials can serve as primitive bandages. These medical techniques are learned through painful experience and often work better than expected. The changing angles of sunlight throughout the day become your primary timekeeping system, helping you plan activities and navigate across familiar territory. You learn to estimate time remaining until sunset, calculate travel times between known locations, and schedule activities to take advantage of optimal lighting and temperature conditions. Navigation skills develop through constant practice and observation. You learn to use landmarks, natural formations, and astronomical bodies to maintain direction across featureless terrain. Star patterns become familiar friends, reliable guides that help you maintain orientation during early morning and evening travels. Your mental mapping abilities expand as you explore larger territories and establish more complex route networks between essential resources. These cognitive maps include not just geographic features, but seasonal variations, weather patterns, animal behaviors, and resource availability changes throughout different cycles. The concept of home becomes fluid and adaptable. Rather than a single fixed location, home becomes a network of familiar territories, known resources, and established routines that can be adapted to changing circumstances while maintaining essential survival capabilities. Your relationship with risk evolves as experience teaches you to distinguish between necessary chances and foolish gambles. Early in your survival journey, desperation often forced dangerous choices that could easily have ended badly. As your skills improve and resources become more predictable, you develop better judgment about which risks are worth taking and which should be avoided. You begin to understand the delicate balance between conservation and expenditure, when to use stored resources versus when to save them, how much energy to invest in activities with uncertain outcomes, and when to abandon failing strategies before they become dangerous resource drains. The psychological challenges of isolation begin to manifest in subtle ways. You find yourself having increasingly elaborate conversations with imaginary companions, creating complex backstories for animals in your territory, and developing emotional attachments to inanimate objects that serve important functions in your daily survival. Music becomes an important psychological tool, though your repertoire is limited to what you can remember from your previous life and what you can create with available materials. Simple percussion instruments made from hollow gourds or stretched hides provide rhythm and entertainment during longer, lonelier periods. You develop storytelling as a way to maintain connection to language and narrative thinking. These stories often blend memories from your previous life with observations from your current existence, creating hybrid tales that help process the strange reality of your situation. Your emotional relationship with the landscape shifts from fear and uncertainty to something approaching partnership. The environment that initially seemed hostile and unpredictable, gradually reveals patterns and opportunities that make survival more manageable, though never easy. You begin to recognize seasonal cycles that extend beyond simple weather changes, including animal migration patterns, plant growth cycles, and resource availability fluctuations that operate on longer timescales than daily survival activities. This knowledge allows for better long-term planning and more efficient resource utilization. Your sleep patterns adapt to natural light cycles more completely, with extended rest periods during longer nights and increased activity during longer days. This adaptation improves your energy levels and overall health, while reducing the artificial scheduling conflicts that characterized your previous existence. Dream content begins to change as memories of your previous life fade, and current experiences dominate your subconscious processing. Dreams of modern conveniences gradually give way to dreams of successful hunts, reliable water sources, and perfect weather conditions, showing how your priorities have fundamentally shifted. The relationship between mind and body becomes more integrated as physical demands require constant mental engagement and strategic thinking. Unlike your previous sedentary existence, every physical activity requires planning, technique, and adaptation to changing circumstances. Your problem-solving abilities develop through constant application to practical challenges. Each day presents multiple problems that require creative solutions using limited resources, forcing rapid mental adaptation and innovative thinking that your previous comfortable existence never demanded. The awareness of mortality becomes both more immediate and less abstract. Death is a constant potential outcome of poor decisions, bad luck, or insufficient preparation, making every successful day feel like a genuine achievement rather than an assumed continuation. Your perspective on time shifts from artificial schedules to natural rhythms. Rather than dividing days into arbitrary units, time becomes organized around natural events, resource needs, and seasonal changes that operate on scales both larger and smaller than modern timekeeping systems. The concept of progress becomes redefined through survival metrics rather than abstract achievements. Progress means improved tool-making skills, better resource identification, more efficient hunting techniques, and enhanced environmental adaptation, tangible improvements in capabilities that directly affect survival odds. Your understanding of value transforms completely, with every possession, skill, and resource evaluated entirely through its contribution to survival requirements. This utilitarian perspective eliminates much of the arbitrary value assignment that characterized your previous life, while making every decision more consequential. The relationship with uncertainty becomes more comfortable as you learn to function effectively despite incomplete information and unpredictable outcomes. Unlike your previous existence, where uncertainty was often seen as a problem to be eliminated, uncertainty becomes an accepted element of daily life that requires adaptive responses rather than anxiety. Social needs find expression through interaction with the natural world. As you develop relationships with familiar animals, preferred locations, and even individual trees or rock formations that serve important functions in your daily routines. These relationships provide some psychological satisfaction while remaining fundamentally different from human social interaction. Your language skills gradually shift to reflect current priorities and experiences, while you maintain basic linguistic abilities through conversation, and storytelling. Your vocabulary begins to emphasize survival-related concepts while other areas of language become less accessible through disuse. The physical transformation continues as your body adapts to constant demands and environmental stresses. Muscle development, cardiovascular improvements, and sensory enhancements create capabilities that your previous sedentary existence never allowed, though these improvements come at the cost of comfort and convenience. Your relationship with pain evolves as minor injuries and physical discomfort become routine rather than exceptional, while serious injuries remain dangerous. You develop tolerance for the everyday aches and pains that accompany an active lifestyle in a demanding environment. The awareness of seasonal changes becomes increasingly sophisticated as you learn to detect subtle environmental signals that indicate upcoming transitions. This knowledge becomes crucial for timing activities, preparing resources, and positioning yourself advantageously for changing conditions. Your territorial awareness expands as you establish larger networks of resource locations, shelter sites, and travel routes. This expanded territory requires more complex mental mapping and strategic planning while providing greater security through resource redundancy and alternative options. The integration of tool use becomes more sophisticated as you develop specialized implements for specific tasks and learn to maintain, modify, and improve your equipment. Your tools become extensions of your capabilities, rather than separate objects, seamlessly integrated into daily activities. Your hunting skills continue to develop through practice and observation, gradually improving from desperate flailing to strategic patience. While large game remains mostly beyond your capabilities, your success with smaller prey becomes more consistent and efficient. The relationship with fire deepens as you master different techniques for various purposes and learn to manage multiple fires simultaneously when conditions require. Fire becomes a trusted partner rather than a mysterious force, though it never loses its potential for danger. Your food preparation techniques become more sophisticated as you experiment with different cooking methods, preservation techniques, and flavor combinations. While the ingredients remain limited, your culinary skills develop within those constraints to maximize nutrition and palatability. Water management evolves from desperate search to strategic planning as you learn to predict availability, conserve supplies, and improve quality through various treatment methods. Your understanding of hydration needs becomes more sophisticated, allowing for better energy management and health maintenance. The psychological adaptation to isolation becomes more complete as you develop effective coping mechanisms and find satisfaction in solitary achievements. While the need for human companionship never disappears entirely, you learn to function effectively without external social validation. Your navigation skills become increasingly sophisticated as you learn to use multiple reference systems simultaneously and develop backup navigation methods for various conditions. Getting lost changes from a likely disaster to unmanageable inconvenience. The understanding of risk assessment becomes more nuanced as experience teaches you to evaluate potential dangers against probable benefits. Your decision-making process incorporates multiple factors and contingency planning rather than relying on desperate impulse. Your resource management capabilities expand to include long-term planning, strategic stockpiling, and complex trade-offs between current consumption and future security. These skills require constant attention and adjustment based on changing circumstances. The relationship with weather becomes more collaborative as you learn to work with natural conditions rather than simply enduring them. Weather patterns become opportunities for specific activities rather than obstacles to overcome. Your understanding of the ecosystem becomes increasingly sophisticated as you observe complex relationships between different species, seasonal cycles, and environmental factors. This knowledge helps you predict changes and identify opportunities that less observant creatures might miss. And so your days continue, each one a small victory in the ongoing campaign to survive in a world that hasn't yet figured out that humans are supposed to be its dominant species. You wake each morning to the same challenges and opportunities, armed with slightly more knowledge than the day before and hopefully enough wisdom to see another sunset. The horizon stretches endlessly in all directions, promising new territories to explore, new challenges to overcome, and new discoveries that will either enhance your survival prospects or teach you valuable lessons about the limits of human adaptability. You are, quite literally, making it up as you go along, creating the template that future generations will eventually call humanity. Your understanding of seasonal migration patterns becomes increasingly sophisticated as you observe which animals move where during different times of year. This knowledge proves invaluable for predicting both hunting opportunities and potential dangers, as large predators often follow the same migration routes as their preferred prey. Learning to position yourself advantageously relative to these movements becomes a complex strategic puzzle that occupies much of your planning time. The development of increasingly complex tool combinations marks another evolutionary leap in your capabilities. You discover that multiple simple tools can be used together to accomplish tasks that would be impossible with any single implement. A sharp cutting stone combined with a sturdy digging stick and some carefully prepared binding materials creates possibilities that expand your options exponentially. Your first successful trap represents months of observation, planning, and failed attempts. The mechanism is simple: a carefully balanced deadfall triggered by disturbing bait. But the execution requires understanding animal behavior, selecting appropriate materials, and positioning everything with precision that leaves no room for error. When it finally works, catching a rabbit that provides both meat and valuable fur, the satisfaction feels like winning an Olympic medal. Weather prediction becomes an increasingly exact science as you learn to read subtle atmospheric signals that precede major changes. The behavior of certain insects, the angle of cloud formations, even the way your own body responds to barometric pressure changes, all become part of a complex forecasting system that helps you prepare for conditions days in advance. Your relationship with pain undergoes fundamental transformation as you learn to distinguish between different types of discomfort and their implications for your survival. Sharp pain demands immediate attention and potential threat assessment, while dull aches might simply indicate normal wear from physical activity. This pain literacy becomes crucial for making good decisions about activity levels and risk management. The concept of entertainment evolves to encompass activities that serve multiple purposes simultaneously. Practicing spear throwing techniques provides both skill development and mental diversion, while experimenting with new tool designs satisfies creativity while potentially improving survival capabilities. Even storytelling serves the dual purpose of psychological comfort and memory maintenance. Your sleep strategies become increasingly sophisticated as you learn to manage rest requirements while maintaining security awareness. You develop the ability to sleep in shorter segments spread throughout the day, taking advantage of safe periods while remaining alert during times when predators are most active. This polyphasic sleep pattern improves both your energy levels and your survival odds. Food preservation experiments lead to discoveries about fermentation, natural refrigeration, and chemical preservation using available plant materials. Some experiments fail catastrophically, resulting in spoiled food and digestive distress, but successful techniques provide significant advantages in resource management and nutritional variety. Your understanding of plant pharmacology develops through careful observation and cautious experimentation. Certain plants provide pain relief, others help with digestive issues, and some offer mild stimulant effects that can be useful during periods requiring extended alertness. This primitive medicine chest becomes increasingly valuable as you learn to treat minor ailments before they become serious problems. The psychological adaptation to constant vigilance creates changes in your mental processing that would be recognizable to modern soldiers or emergency responders. You develop the ability to maintain relaxed alertness for extended periods, simultaneously monitoring multiple environmental inputs while engaging in other activities. This hypervigilance becomes so natural that complete relaxation starts to feel strange and uncomfortable. Your territorial expansion continues as improved skills and better resource management allow you to safely explore larger areas. Each new territory brings opportunities for discovering additional resources, while also requiring updated mental maps and strategic planning. The balance between familiar security and potentially valuable exploration becomes an ongoing strategic consideration. Seasonal food cycles become predictable patterns that allow for sophisticated planning and resource allocation. You learn exactly when certain fruits ripen, when specific animals are most active, and when particular plants provide optimal nutrition. This knowledge transforms random foraging into strategic harvest operations that maximize return on energy investment. The development of backup plans for every major survival system becomes essential as experience teaches you that redundancy often means the difference between temporary setback and catastrophic failure. Multiple fire starting methods, several water sources, diverse food procurement strategies, and alternative shelter options provide security margins that allow you to take calculated risks. Your hunting techniques evolve to include persistence hunting, a method that takes advantage of your superior endurance to exhaust faster but less durable prey. This technique requires excellent tracking skills, strategic stamina management, and the patience to maintain pursuit over hours or even days, but it allows you to successfully hunt animals that would be impossible to catch through stealth or speed alone. The relationship between physical condition and mental state becomes increasingly apparent as you learn to recognize how nutrition, hydration, sleep, and physical stress affect your cognitive abilities and emotional stability. Maintaining optimal physical condition becomes crucial not just for survival tasks, but for maintaining the mental clarity necessary for good decision making. Your tool maintenance routines become elaborate rituals that serve both practical and psychological functions. The process of sharpening, cleaning, and organizing your implements provides meditative focus while ensuring that your equipment remains reliable. These maintenance sessions also provide opportunities for tool modification and improvement based on recent experience. Water treatment techniques become increasingly sophisticated as you experiment with different filtration methods, purification materials, and storage systems. Clean, reliable water access transforms from a constant worry to a managed resource, freeing mental energy for other survival challenges while significantly improving your health and energy levels. Your understanding of ecological relationships deepens as you observe complex interactions between different species and learn to predict how changes in one population affect others. This knowledge helps you anticipate resource availability, identify new opportunities, and avoid areas where ecological disruptions might create dangerous conditions. The development of contingency plans for various emergency scenarios becomes a constant mental exercise. What to do if injured? Where to go if your primary shelter becomes compromised? How to respond if your fire goes out during bad weather? Having predetermined responses to foreseeable problems significantly improves your chances of surviving unexpected challenges. Your relationship with solitude reaches a level of comfort that would be difficult to explain to your previous social self. The constant presence of your own thoughts becomes familiar and reassuring rather than isolating, and you develop the ability to find genuine contentment in simple daily accomplishments and the beauty of natural surroundings. But for now, you're just trying to make it through another day without becoming something else's lunch, and honestly, that seems like a pretty reasonable goal for the first member of what will eventually become the most successful species in the planet's history. Not bad for someone who started the day naked, hungry, and wondering where exactly evolution thinks this whole bipedal experiment is supposed to lead.